for a crop that gives back so much to us in terms of the greens and in terms of the sprouts, you're going to want to make this an instant part of your garden. Guten Yardening, everybody! It's a beautiful autumn day here in Zone 5, Wisconsin. It's about 40 degrees, average temperatures for this time of year here in middle November, and we're going to show you one of our favorite autumn crops, one of our favorite fall crops, Brussels sprouts.
Now you may notice that our Brussels sprouts probably look a little bit different than you would expect down at the bottom, especially if you've ever grown Brussels sprouts before. But that's because we love the taste of Brussels sprout leaves. And so once the bottom Brussels sprouts get to about 1 inch in size, which you can see we have right here, once they get to be about 1 inch in size, we start cutting off some of the lower leaves so that we can eat them. You've probably also noticed, if you've ever tried to grow Brussels sprouts before, that the sprouts toward the bottom grow biggest, fastest, and then the ones at the top kind of hang around and delay a bit. And since the sprouts at the top take longer to mature and they're not as big early on, one of the suggestions our local extension office gives is to go ahead and cut the top off. These leaves that bunch together almost like it's going to form a head of cabbage, is to cut these off, and that will force the plant to push the nutrients no higher than these top sprouts. And the result is that these will bulk up as well, similar to the ones down below. One thing that's an absolute must if you really want good sized sprouts is consistent watering. The most common suggestion is that you need an equivalent of about 1 inch of water per week. Without that consistent watering, what you'll find is that your sprouts aren't going to develop nearly as large, and you'll find inconsistent development throughout the plant. A plant this size, and you can see the stem of this in diameter, is a few inches in diameter here, probably 2 inches in diameter. It's going to need to be able to pull up water all the way to the top. And right now we're talking at almost 36 inches tall. And if you're not giving it enough water, there's no way that you're going to get that development of your Brussels sprouts toward the top.
One of the other reasons people struggle when growing Brussels sprouts is because they don't know that Brussels sprouts are part of the Brassica family. That means that they're a part of the same family as cabbage, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, and so on. I mean, you can see this looks like a baby cabbage. So since they're a part of that Brassica family, you have to make sure that you don't plant them in the same place year over year, that you've either planted Brussels sprouts before or you've planted some of those other brassicas. If you do, they'll drain the soil and you will find that you won't get the results you want. Crop rotation is important for your brassicas, just like any other vegetable, but maybe even more so.
For the first few months after planting, you'll probably notice, well, that it doesn't much resemble a Brussels sprout. But it's only after those first couple of months that you'll start to see the sprouts form right at that intersection where the leaf and the stem join. So you can see that playing out right here. And again, once you get to that inch or so diameter for the sprouts at the bottom, that's when it's perfectly fine to go ahead and cut the top off. One of the things we love about growing our own vegetables is that when you buy these from the store, and you can usually find them one of two ways. You can find them as is, whole on the stalk, just like this, or you can find them already cut off. Because we're growing them ourselves, we have the benefit of harvesting these leaves as a second crop. There's a little bit of damage here, but one thing I can tell you is these leaves are very similar to our collard greens. These are our collard greens right here, for a couple of reasons. One, the way they taste and the way they're prepared are similar. And two, whenever it gets cold, if there's been a light snow, a nice frost, their sweetness level increases. They taste better. Similarly, the sprouts themselves taste better after a snow or after a nice light frost. And what's really nice about these plants is they can survive in temperatures as low as 20 degrees. So as long as it stays above 20 degrees out here, 20 degrees Fahrenheit, you'll find you'll still have really nice high quality sprouts and greens. Now you may notice a couple of empty spots right in here. because what we've done is we've actually come out and harvested a few of these off. And we've harvested them simply by pulling them off just like this. When you're harvesting Brussels sprouts, you're looking for that nice bright green color, and you want the heads to be packed, firm. These are nice and tight. Those are all indicators of a very healthy sprout. These are about 1 inch in diameter, and Brussels sprouts can grow up to 2 inches in diameter. This is a good size though. These are not bitter, these are firm, and again, we've had some nice cold weather, so this is actually going to be nice and sweet too. There's so many ways to prepare these Brussels sprouts. And the reality is, if you want a good sweet sprout here, you're going to want it to mature when the weather gets cool. If it matures when the weather's hot, that's when you might have some of that bitterness. Now, it's highly possible to start these from directly sowing seeds, and we've done that for sure. It's also possible to plant them as transplants, and that's actually what we've done here. These are 2 organic seedlings that we transplanted into the garden here, and you can see after a few months in the ground, they're definitely performing well for us. In fact, we've already harvested one of the 3 that we planted out here, and that one had even bigger sprouts on it. Once you've grown these Brussels sprouts, there are a few ways to harvest them. We could just pull this right out of the ground, and actually we could take it inside and hang it, and it would last for quite a while if we had a cool enough area, something in the neighborhood of 35 degrees. So if our garage was consistent enough in temperature, we could actually store these out in our garage a little bit longer term. But for us, we're going to take this, we're going to harvest the whole plant, and then we're going to pull the individual Brussels sprouts off. And these can be kept in your refrigerator for a couple of weeks, and they'll be just fine. And we recommend putting them in a gallon Ziploc bag with some paper towel, like moist paper towel around them to keep them damp. They don't do well if there is low humidity, so they need that moisture, that humidity, and again, they'll last for a few weeks, up to a few weeks. But just like any vegetable that you pull out of the garden, the fresher they are, the tastier they are, and that is no different here. So once we harvest these, once we pull them out of the ground, we really love to eat them, or at least prepare them in any number of ways as early as possible. Your preparation technique might include pickling them, because they are great pickled, roasted. I know a lot of people like to do their Brussels sprouts wrapped in bacon. You can't go wrong that way.
Brussels sprouts, from our experience, seem to be hit or miss depending on your experience with them. But the reality is, if you're consistent in the watering, you make sure that your soil is in a good place for them, a pH between 6 and 7, with the right nutrients, then you're going to find that you're going to have some success. And we can't control the weather, that's true as well, but we can work to control the conditions that we're growing them in. And for a crop that gives back so much to us in terms of the greens and in terms of the sprouts, you're going to want to make this an instant part of your garden. Well, now that I've made myself hungry coming out here by our Brussels sprouts, I think we're going to have to harvest these pretty soon and try a few different recipes and maybe show you how we're going to enjoy the food that we've grown over the last few months. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.